Greetings, everyone. I'm Lance Senaho, and welcome to DFW Real Estate's best podcast, where we introduce you to the top producing agents and their vetted business partners, the real movers and shakers in the DFW real estate community. This week, we have an amazing guest whose influence can be felt from Arlington, Texas, all the way to Uganda. So if you want to hear his story, how he became one of the top agents, what motivates and inspires him, then tune in right now. Well, welcome back. Welcome to DFW Real Estate's best podcast, brought to you by Real Producer Magazine. We come to you live every Wednesday at 11 o'clock from your favorite platforms such as Facebook Live, YouTube, Spotify, iTunes, you name it. Typically on this show, this episode, we have Jordan, Rachell, and myself kind of recapping the events and the conversations we've had over the previous month. But this week, Jordan is not going to be here. He is attending a celebration for one of our folks in the real producer community that we lost recently. So we want to send our heartfelt condolences to Nick Good and his family and friends who are celebrating the life of his brother, Austin Good, today. So from all of us in the real producer community, we send our love and heartfelt condolences. So speaking of the Real Producer community, this is a community brought to you by Real Producer Magazine. In the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex, we have 3 editions of the Real Producer Magazine: North DFW, Dallas, and Tarrant. And each of those magazines is distributed to the top 500 realtors in those territories and their vetted business partners. So it's the best agents and the partners that they have referred to this community. So it's really this community of the best and the best. And we're so excited today to have one of those best and one of the most influential agents in DFW, Mr. Dennis Tuttle. And I'm going to introduce you to him in just a minute. But before we do, our podcast today is powered by The Difference. And The Difference radio live stream podcast provides video branding and digital business development solutions for small business owners and entrepreneurs locally and statewide. With over 600,000 viewers in 2020 and growing, The Difference can help any business grow their brand awareness and develop a message that humanizes your business in a way that grows your brand, expands your connections and relationships, increases your influence and relevance, and quickly helps you become known as a power player and mover and shaker in your sphere, community, industry, and business world. And we have a mover and shaker on today. And we also have a mover and shaker, Miss Rachell Marie, who's going to be co-hosting with me today. Rachell, welcome.
Hi, everybody. Thank you, Lance.
So good to have you. Hey, we've got a incredible guest that I think both of us have quite an affection for. In fact, why don't you announce him? Bring him on for us.
Oh my goodness. I think what you said at the beginning of the show was perfect. He's not only a mover and shaker here in Dallas, North America, but he's also a mover and shaker in Uganda there. And I'm certainly excited to share more about that. And I know he's also up, as some of you watching might know, for an ESPY. We have the ESPYs next month, November 17th, first ever historic awards gala. It's going to be red carpet, black tie, best event we've thrown yet. And specifically for the top 1% to 2% in real estate here in Dallas. Super excited. And appropriately, Dennis is up for a World Changer Award as well as best cover, which I'm sure we can get into that there. His very unique cover that actually ties into Uganda. But I think without further ado, let's bring Dennis on. Welcome, Dennis.
Hey, how's it going?
Hey, Dennis. Welcome to the show.
Good.
Can you hear me?
We can.
Okay, good. Thank y'all for having me.
Yeah. Of course. Good to see you. Hey, we're going to jump right in. I want to hear some things about you, but I really want to talk about something that I think is important to everybody and something that everybody can resonate and relate to, and that's barbecue.
Yes.
Yeah.
I heard you guys had some good
We're
barbecue.
in Texas. Everybody should be able to relate to barbecue.
Yeah. Last week, Dennis introduced me to some of the best barbecue I've had in years. And I kind of wanted you to share a little bit about that experience.
Well, so we went to David's barbecue. I was glad Lance was good to, go wherever we wanted to go. And so that's in Pantego here. They've been in business for over 100 years. And I actually went to high school, Pantego Christian Academy, right down the street. So I've literally been eating there the majority of my life. And it's the best barbecue around. It's like a third generation barbecue spot. And man, I don't know how you could beat it. So
Yeah,
the owner's the guy. He's cutting the meat. That's who's taking your order. The first, like right when you walk in, is Jimmy. He's the owner. His dad was in the business. His grandpa was in the business, and in fact, I think his grandpa was brothers with Sonny Bryant Barbecue as well. So they got a lot of history there, which is cool.
Yeah, they do, and it was fantastic. I think we both had a side of fried okra that was just the perfect crispiness, not overcooked, but not undercooked. It was just right. But what I was so impressed, and the reason I brought that up, I know that you've been a part of that community. Your office is literally right down the street. And for those of you that don't know where Pantego is, it's kind of right on the border of Arlington. So it really is just right there, part of that whole community. And what I think what I took from that is how invested you are in that community. Your former office is right down the street with our great friends at Keller Williams Arlington, and then now you've just opened up a brand new location. Yeah. But you really have been involved, and you stayed in that community. Why? What's the attraction?
It's funny. I looked at when we bought this building here. I mean, we're looking for an opportunity of something we could invest in and remodel, and I probably looked at like 200 something different places online, and it was just funny that the one that just made the most sense was a block away from here. So I mean, I've had the same commute since fifth grade, which is just crazy, but it's cool. I love going there. I probably go to David's 2 or 3 times a week, but it's just nice to have a local place like that. It's kind of homegrown, and supporting the local businesses that are around here. It's just fun, and it's just nice to have a familiar face and someone you can walk in and you're on a first name basis with, and so it's pretty cool. But yeah, I think going to school here, and then my first real estate, when I became an agent, being at my first office for the last 12 years was right there on Bowen and Park Row, and so it was kind of neat to be here. In fact, fun thing is, on Facebook, probably about 1.5 years ago, somebody, you see those street signs for sale that people, get from the city or whatever. And I saw Bowen and Park Row, the signs that used to be on the traffic lights. And I sent that lady the money before I even knew if she was a real person or not, because I wanted that deal. So we're about to hang up in our training room. And they're huge. Do you think those signs are like this? But it's probably an 8-foot wide sign. That used to be up on the traffic light. So those things are a lot bigger than they look at. But we bought Bowen and Park Row, so I have the signs from the intersection, which is kind of neat. So I'm kind of like nostalgic like that. So
yeah.
But yeah, I mean, this is kind of where it began.
Yeah, I was saying I have not been to your office yet, but I was hearing from Lance earlier today. There are some other unique mementos and things that are of significance to you in your office.
Yeah.
We've got some cool stuff. In fact, this. Go ahead, Lance.
No, please.
Oh, I was just going to say that the L, like that L on that lead sign right there, that's the original. That's one of the L's from the original Keller Williams sign that used to be on our building over there at the Chase Bank building. So we changed signs out, and then we raised money for KW Cares, which is the Keller Williams nonprofit, and so we auctioned off all of the letters of the old sign. So I just turned it into, now it says lead, but that's a neat piece of kind of the history of everything. So
that's great. Dennis, one of the things that I was struck by, because I saw some before and after, but you walk up to this building and it looks like this state-of-the-art, modern, beautiful piece of architecture that somebody just designed, and this, and what it was, though, was it a dilapidated old building that, with a dying palm tree in front of it, right?
Yeah.
And you had a vision though, and brought it back to life in such a cool way. And not only that, that palm tree in the front, that looked like it was dead, right? For however many years now has
For 6 months.
Yeah, this beautiful growth at the top, and I just thought that really was kind of symbolic of you and your success and sort of what you're building. Do you see it that way? Are you sentimental like that?
I am, funny enough, but yeah, it was that palm tree. It actually looked good while we had the building under contract. That's when it died. It died during the big snowmageddon that we had, and it has looked dead for 6 months, like completely dead. And it's like, I don't know, what would you say, 40 feet tall? That's a big palm tree. So we were really kind of, it's when it's alive and full, it's as tall or taller than the building. And this is a 2-story building. And so, yeah, it's neat to see it coming back. It was a lot of a lot of prayer. I had so many people tell me it was dead and I should just cut it down and start over. And I held out for 6 months, and then a few weeks ago we had a little bit of growth coming out of the top. And yeah, I mean, I think that's kind of how this whole project here was for sure for us. I mean, this place looked like a dilapidated prison outside of it before we started remodeling it. So yeah, it's neat to see it come back to life. But stuff takes time, Lance. I mean, that's the big thing. I mean, nothing's overnight. One of the things that we have written on, I had a sign made above the stairs. And you guys kind of noted this in the Real Producers article, but is that the land doesn't care who the farmer is. And so, as long as the farmer follows the right success pattern, the right success formula, the land is going to produce for anybody who's willing to work it. And so same went for that palm tree. So, Well,
that message, of course, is, I think, can, be applied to a lot of things. How do you see that with real estate, with your team? What's kind of that message when you have that in your office? What is the message you're trying to send your team and the people that come into your office?
I think the big message there is that anybody can be successful. Anybody can achieve what someone else, has done. I think about goals, and if you think about whatever goal you have, chances are there's somebody out in the world that has also accomplished that goal, and they did it under far worse circumstances than where you might be today. And I think of people like Chris Gardner, who was the star. Well, Will Smith portrayed him in the movie The Pursuit of Happiness. And you had a guy with like literally every disadvantage against him, and he, in fact, he was homeless. And then at the end of the day, he's a multimillionaire, owns a stock brokerage, and travels the world helping, inspire people and change people's lives, And there's a lot of people who would say, yeah, I want to be successful, or I want to be a millionaire. I want to do this. And yet, if they have a hangnail, they complain about their day. And yet you have someone like Chris Gardner, for example, who was literally homeless, sleeping in subway bathrooms, that then achieved everything that he wants to achieve. So, we believe that there's patterns to success and there's patterns to failure. And if you copy the pattern of success, so you just say, okay, here's the pattern of failure, here's what doesn't work, and I'm gonna avoid those things, and then I'm gonna take the pattern of success over here and model it after my life. You can't have the limiting belief that success is reserved for the special few people out there. You have to have the mindset that, if I, just like when I say the land doesn't care who the farmer is, if you relate that to real estate, the real estate market doesn't care who the agent is. The life doesn't care who the person is, as long as you're willing to apply the right success principles and the right success patterns. Life will produce, the market will produce for anybody who's willing to go work it. And the land doesn't care how old you are or how. Yeah, I mean, that's what gave me the confidence to get into real estate from the agent side, because there's all these. I was 23 years old when I got my license, and it was 2009. It was in the middle of the recession, and in fact, it was only getting worse every year. But I knew that if I could go apply the right pattern of success, follow the right models, that it didn't matter how new I was or young I was or any of that stuff. And I think that's true for anybody. So, I mean, if someone came to me and said, I want to do this, I'd say, great, go figure out what's the pattern of success, and go do it, and don't put any limiting beliefs that you can't because of any type of, disadvantage you think you have. So that's why that's on the building. So when you're leaving down the stairs, that is up there. The land doesn't care who the farmer is.
That's amazing. So let's talk about patterns.
And it's a reminder for me too.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I'd love to hear more about those patterns of success that you're talking about, Dennis, because I'm sure there's people watching who, view you. You're that world changer. You're that inspiring leader to them. And obviously, it's amazing hearing a little bit of the journey starting at 23. And there could have been all of those limiting beliefs like you were talking about. But what were some of those patterns of success that you found and you have held on to through your journey?
Well, I think the first thing, and I love that question, Rachell, because I think the first thing really starts with your mindset, and the way that you think. And there's kind of a pattern here, because the way that you think determines the way that you feel or your emotions, and then that leads to what you say, your words, and then that leads to your actions, and then your actions lead to your results. And so I think when you're trying to figure out what that pattern is, you've got to say, okay, well, how do I need to think to get what I want? What do I need? How do I need to feel? How do I control my emotions? Like, for example, fear is an emotion. Well, I didn't see fear in any of the top producing people. So you got to control that emotion. What do you say? How do you talk like a top producer? What do top producers say that other agents maybe do not? And learn to control your words. And then what actions do I need to take, and then the result. And I think that pattern is kind of a framework for a pattern. The nice part is, if we go back to farming, is the land doesn't decide the size of the harvest. The farmer decides the size of the harvest.
Wow.
So if I have an acre, or I want to work 100 acres, just assuming there's unlimited land, which in the real estate market, nobody's there to tell you can only talk to this many people a day. That's up to the agent or up to the farmer. So if I got 1,000 acres and I want to go work 1,000 acres, I figure out that pattern. And like when I first got in the business, my first year, my goal was to be international rookie of the year for Keller Williams, which I fell short by about like 2 deals. So I was runner up, but I had set that goal before I had ever even had a closing. And what I did was I worked backwards, and I said, okay, if that's the result that I want, so you kind of determine the harvest ahead of time. So if I wanted rookie of the year results, I had to have rookie of the year thoughts, rookie of the year feelings, rookie of the year words, rookie of the year actions, and then I could have the result and kind of work. I had to reverse engineer it, So I think it started with just that mindset piece of it, not operating in fear, being very careful of what I spoke over my life. I couldn't be negative and be going around saying I can't do this or I can't do that. And then I had to talk to people every day. I think the people always got really disappointed when they'd come ask me for advice, because I took and I was telling Lance about this at lunch the other day, but you've got a lead generator prospect 3 hours a day. This is what I did. Now, there's a lot of ways to produce business, and people always mix they hear prospecting or lead generation and they relate that to cold calling. And that's not what I'm saying. Because even if you just worked your database and referrals, you've got to call and love on those people, right? So I was getting listings and buyers, and I was literally every day from about 8:30 to 11:30. That's all I was doing. And people would come up to me after a few months and they'd be like, hey, what are you doing? Like, what's your secret? And I'd say, and they're hoping I was going to tell them a website to go to or some like magic easy button. And I would tell them, I'd be like, I'm making calls 3 hours a day. It's working. And they'd be like,
hard work.
And they'd walk off. They didn't want to hear that.
Wow.
That's right. But I remember.
Yeah, like a farmer. I think about that. That's such an appropriate example too, because I think some of the hardest workers are farmers out in the field, working their crop. Mm-hmm. And that is grueling work. And so also just what a picture that sign is too, that real estate, it's not a piece of cake. It takes some hard work. It takes some perseverance working the land.
Mm-hmm. And it takes time. You don't plant a seed. True. Every conversation with somebody is a seed sown. You don't plant a seed and expect a tree tomorrow. And I
Right.
think people treat the real estate business like that. They're like, okay, well, I talked to 10 people a day or 20 people a day and I didn't get anything. It's like, no, all you did was you sowed some seed today,
Right.
but there's seed time and harvest, and it is in that order. A good buddy of mine, Chad Smith, he had a sign up in his office that said, it said, don't judge your day by the harvest you reaped, judge your day by the seeds that you sowed.
That's good.
And
wow.
I always loved that. I thought, man, did I sow seed today? Did I plant something for my future today? And if I did, even if I didn't get a harvest today, I know that I would still call that a good day. But if I had a closing today and I didn't sow any seed, to me, that's not a good day. That means I had a good day 30, 60, 90 days ago that led to a harvest today. Does that make sense? So when you ask about like patterns of success, that was some big kind of the more concept on that, but that was a big, I think, secret to any success that I had, as I was building my business.
Right.
A couple things you said reminded me of the conversation we had, and that chair that's right over your corner, right over your shoulder in the corner. You said is kind of where you do a lot of your thinking. And one of my favorite books, and our favorite books, I think you have a hard copy there called The Road Less Stupid, right? And you're a smart guy. You've done a lot of things. And I think, we talked about that there are a lot of agents that do a lot of smart things, and they forget to just kind of do the dumb things or avoid the dumb things that even are just the hard work. But there was a quote in there that says, I don't need to do more smart things. I just need to make fewer dumb mistakes. On the way, you've achieved a lot of success. Tell me something really dumb that you did and a lesson you learned from it. And that you're still maybe learning that sticks with you. I'm
still learning. Yeah, I mean, that's it. I think, in the recession especially, and that was a hard time. I was talking to another team this morning. It was just funny. That's why I was glad to be back on time to do this. I usually am not gone in the mornings, but one of my best friends wanted me to speak to his team starting out. And I shared the story. I told him about probably the hardest month financially I ever had, which was in February of 2011. And it was just the bottom of the recession. I was, and I had let my expenses get too high. And I wasn't controlling the cash flow, controlling the money management probably the best that I could. And a lot of times people, they get out of the business not because they're bad, it's just they ran out of time and they ran out of money. In fact, I think it was, Dave Ramsey had said, he said the two biggest causes of businesses running out is one, they grow too fast, or two, they have cash flow problems. And I had cash flow problems. So I think that was probably just getting myself in that position of not saving enough money, not managing my money correctly. And then I took my foot off the gas in a time that I shouldn't have. And part of it was, when my first son, Dennis the fourth, was born, I had my biggest month ever, probably the month before, and I kind of let off the gas as a new dad. I'm thinking I want time. I don't want to be stressed. I don't want to be busy. And it was just the wrong time in history to take your foot off the gas going into, that was October of 2010, going into, the end of the year, and then going into what was the bottom of the recession, which was 2011. And we were in the hospital for, 2-3 weeks. We were home for a couple of weeks. We just had a lot of complications at birth. My son and my wife both had E. coli in their bloodstream.
Oh, no.
And the report was not good. And so through a lot of prayer and just, getting through all that, thank God they were both healed. They came out of it. But I didn't lead generate. I was not prepared. I didn't lead generate for about 2 months, and then it was Christmas time, and by that point I went from my biggest month ever in September to basically almost out of money in January, and then completely out of money in February. And so, but I didn't get back to work the way that I probably should have, which was dumb. We talk about that, and I love that book, Lance, because it talks about part of success is just not doing stupid stuff.
Right.
And I think I had a little bit of life that showed up. But I mean, I was at a point, I mean, I was telling the group this morning, I mean, I was contemplating quitting real estate altogether because I had to go provide for my family. I sold my truck. I sold a guitar amp. I sold a watch just to make payroll. I had a full-time assistant at the time who was very gracious to just let me pay her when I had money and not like every, week or something. And, but I remember telling myself at that moment, and I didn't quit because part of it was, that's a whole nother story, but I knew I had a vision for where I wanted to be in my real estate career, which was being a team leader and being able to teach and influence other people and, help other people, live the life that I knew they could to their full potential. And I knew that if I quit, I wasn't going to have that opportunity. Nobody wants to hear that story. And so I didn't quit, thankfully. But I remember telling myself I can lead generate myself out of this. And I just went back to work double time. And then it all, thankfully picked up. And then the next year I doubled my business in 2012, had double the biggest year I'd ever had. And then at the end of that year, that's when I moved into leadership at KW. But none of that would have happened had I not come through, that situation. But I mean, it was tough. And I was very clear though on my why and my vision and all that. But if I wasn't, I mean, I would have just went and got a job and, kept moving
Perhaps
forward.
you would have held on to eliminate belief, as well as you were talking about in that very desperate place. I can't lead generate. How can I do this? But instead, I hear from you,
Right.
You had that mindset of, no, I can do this. I can lead generate. And put your hand to the plow.
Yeah. And I just had to get myself back to work, and literally, and it was so funny because it's just how business is. I remember like my first month that I was like, okay, I just committed to, get off my butt and go back to work and get it, just hit it as hard as I'd ever hit it before. And I sold I put maybe $1 million under contract and I was like, okay, good. I'm back. Like I can see light at the end of the tunnel. And then in 2 days, all of those deals fell apart and I was back to zero.
No.
And it was now another 45 days had passed. And I'm like, oh my goodness. And, of course that was just the real estate market we were in, and everything was out of my control. It was like stock market related or someone lost their job and, but in 2 weeks we put it all back under contract and then, just kept moving forward. But it was tough. But I think the mistake there was I took my foot off the gas. And Gary Keller always said, he said, show up every day like it's the worst market of your life. And right now it's not, but my team, that's how we operate. Like we show up every day like today's the worst market we've ever seen, because tomorrow it could be. And you never know, when that could be. But back then it really was the worst market we'd ever seen. And it was, I took my foot off the gas. 2, I let my expenses get too high. So where it was painfully high overhead that was really crippling me. And so I spent the next 2 years after that cutting down my expenses down to where, I wouldn't be in that position again. But I think that takes a lot of history, just those 2 things right there. So
Dennis, you mentioned your team, and I know walking into your office or into kind of your the bullpen, or I remember what you called it, but where you guys do your lead gen, something that is obvious that you almost stumble over as you walk in. That is sort of it reminds me of the Ted Lasso, imagine as you walk in. But tell us about that. What is that I'm talking about?
So you're talking about the home plate.
Yep.
Is that, I'm guessing that's what we're referring to. Yeah. Yeah. So the home plate. Well, so one of my mentors in the business, Smokey Garrett, he did a meeting one time, and he shared the story of this coach. His name was I think it was Scalinos was his last name, and John Scalinos. And if you can go read the story. In fact, I need to send it to you. But he was a old school coach, and he was speaking at a coaches conference for baseball players. And the whole time he spoke, he wore this home plate literally around his neck the entire time. And he asked everybody there, he said, how wide is the plate in Little League baseball and the home plate? And they said 17 inches. And then he said, well, how big is it for junior high? And how big is it for high school? And how big is it for college? And the answer every time was 17 inches, 17 inches, 17 inches. And then he said, how big is it for the major leagues? And they said 17 inches. And he said, that's right, it's 17 inches. And he said, why? He said, when a player is not performing or pitching well, do we widen the plate for that player? And the answer, of course, was no. But he said the problem in our life, in our schools, in our churches, in our businesses, is we've gotten in a bad habit of widening the plate. And it's okay to have grace. But if a player's, you're not helping a player, for example, in baseball by giving them a 24-inch home plate. You help them by teaching them how to throw a strike over 17 inches. And so when I was team leader, I replicated what I learned from him, and I did a meeting to our agent leadership council and did the same thing with the home plate. And then I gave everybody a home plate. Actually, I put it in front of their doors early one morning before they got to work. And I got one for myself, and I had the whole ALC sign it. And that was my reminder when I walk in, and my team, when they walk into that lead gen room, they have to walk over that home plate and remember that we're not here to widen the plate for you. Right. You know, we're here to make you better, but we're not going to widen the plate. And so that was just that reminder. And it's that reminder for myself, like, because I want to widen the plate for myself sometimes, and I can't. Got to keep it in, keep the players and keep yourself within 17 inches. And that was kind of his point on that. And I thought that, I don't know, that really impacted me. And so I still have that plate, you know, signed by the whole ALC back then, sitting at that Legion door. So
I love it.
Amazing. I love that.
Yeah.
I'll have to come see this inspiring office sometime. Hearing so much about it from Lance this morning.
You have to come by.
My parents, I know. But amazing.
Yeah, Dennis, you mentioned, you know, your role as team leader, you know, at Keller Williams, and I know you have a deep affection for your KW colleagues, and just all the you know, how much they've meant to your career and your success. And in that, you know, you rose to really the pinnacle of what would be, you know, in that model, the Keller Williams model, that pinnacle of success. But you chose a different path, right? And I want to talk a little bit about why you made that choice, because I think it really gets to the core of who you are. You shared, you know, with me the other day, your mission and vision and values and things like that. But I want to talk about kind of why and how you came to that choice and the path you're on now, and then some of the exciting stuff that you are doing, not just here, but you know, across the world.
Sure. Well, yeah, it was a hard choice. That was something I had worked towards for probably 10 years, you know, on that point. And so I'm going to say this, I'll say this best way I can to still communicate because that's a long story, but I had, I prayed for a long time on path and where I was supposed to go and where I was supposed to be. There's a Bible verse, Proverbs 19:21. It says, "Many are the plans in a person's heart, but it's the Lord's purpose that prevails." And so I would tell the Lord, you know, as long as you have me here, these are my plans. But if you have a different purpose, that's what I want, you know, and just do that. And I probably prayed for 2 years. I just wasn't. I didn't have a peace. And I always give this advice to people when they ask me, "Hey, should I go this way or go that way?" And I just say, go where I said, follow the peace. You know, where do you have a peace? And if you're married, does your spouse have a peace? And are y'all in agreement on that? And for whatever reason, I didn't have peace, and I couldn't figure it out why. And I didn't have any other direction anyway. And so through kind of a series of events, I had decided that, you know, my goals changed. And I think that's a big deal to recognize when your goals change, that one, that's okay. You know, you might have worked for something for 10 years, right, but if the goal changes, you know, that's okay. And my vision, I think the vehicle of how I wanted to achieve the vision changed, and I didn't see it being the path I was on anymore, which was owning franchises and going through that route. And honestly, I never saw myself coming back to running a real estate team and taking listings and working with buyers and all of that. But it's been probably one of the greatest decisions I've made in terms of a transition, a big move like that. And I had I was getting the opportunity to do some really cool things, teach. I mean, I got to teach in front of thousands of people and do, all kinds of fun stuff, with that. But I knew that wasn't the path anymore. So I made the change, to step out of leadership, at least in that capacity, and come back and run my team. And I think if where you're going, what you're doing, if it's not in perfect alignment with, I think I have to go to bed at night knowing that I fully back everything that I'm doing and supporting, and I believe in it. And I'm super grateful, Lance. Just for the record, I mean, my time at KW absolutely changed my life. The people there changed my life, and I'll be forever, ever grateful for them. But but I also recognize that there was just time for change. Things weren't in alignment like they were for me, and I kind of wanted to be able to have more control over the vision and where I was headed and all those things. And so it was nothing bad on anybody or anything with that. But I had to follow that piece, and it's been great. My team's doing better than we've ever done before, and from a business side, all that stuff's kind of lining up great. But I think, the purpose, I'll say it this way, and I learned this at KW, the purpose of business is to fund your perfect life. And if your business is funding a lifestyle, but it's not allowing you to live your life or stay true to who you are or live your life, or, whatever it is, then your business is not serving its purpose. My dad, he's been in the roofing business for 40 years. I love my dad. I love what he's done because it provided for our family, and it's been really good, for him and our family through what he did with that. But my challenge was I didn't want to travel. He did, work storms and would travel all over the place, and he's gone 9 months out of the year, and we made that work. It was great when we were younger, but that's not what I wanted to do. So I knew I could make money doing that, but I couldn't live my life that I wanted. I have 5 kids, my wife and I wanted to have time with that and be home for dinner and do all those things. I have a lot of giving goals that I wanted, as well, and different things. And so I had big financial goals. So I needed a business that would allow me to make the money that I wanted to make. But it also couldn't be my whole life, right? It's there to fund my life, not be my life. And so I had to, I made that decision as well to do that. But it's all got to be lined up and moving in the same direction. And so, so I think those are the things I think about as I'm going into all that. So I don't know if that's what you're wanting, Lance, but
yeah, well, it's amazing just your clarity, and I love that, because to make that decision, you have to have incredible clarity of purpose. And I think at some point you even talked about you even made your own personal vision statement and mission statement. Did that help you in that moment to make that hard choice?
Yeah, I think 100%.
Yeah,
100%. I mean, my vision and mission. I was in a meeting probably 5 or 6 years ago. I was in a regional leadership meeting, and one of the exercises were write down your why, or write down your mission. And I had never really done that. I kind of had it here. I knew I had something in my heart that I wanted to do, and I knew the impact that I was hoping to make someday, but I had never written it down. And that was exactly the topic I was talking about this morning with that team. If you know your mission and your vision, you literally can make all of your decisions based on, is it in alignment with the vision and mission or not? And if it's not in alignment, it's a no. And if it does help you working towards your mission and your vision, then it's a yes. And it brings a ton of clarity on that, And so so yeah, I think having that defined, and the mission is, in business or life, the mission is, why does your business exist? And in a personal mission statement, the question's, why are you here? that's the answer to that would be your mission. And the vision would be, what does your life look like, or what does the world look like if your mission is accomplished? And so it's two totally different statements, a mission and vision. And for me, I mean, part of my vision was to be able to make an impact on people, to live the life that God designed them to live. And so part of my mission is I got to live that out as an example, as well. And so when I get an opportunity to, like, you text me yesterday, and man, we were planning this and squeezed in to make today work. And I was so grateful to have the opportunity. But it was a definite yes. I just had to figure it out, because it's an opportunity to maybe help somebody else that's struggling with things that I struggled with, when I was in the business. And of course, I still am in the business. So, so yeah, it's a huge thing. But you can say yes or no based on, does it line up with the mission and vision? So
I think that's amazing. So talking about goals, Dennis, you have some new goals that we're seeing posted on social media and announced, and it actually ties into the cover that people might have seen when they go on the SB Awards voting form. You're up also for a cover nomination,
yes.
Best Cover, and there you are next to Emmett, the Lego, the Lego movie character. Yes. So I'm sure a lot of people seeing that must be like, what is that guy doing with Emmett from the Lego movie? Why don't you care about that?
Yeah, thank y'all for that opportunity, by the way. And Lance, thank you for letting us do that. I called Lance and I was like, hey, because y'all had asked if we could be the cover story. And I thought, well, I'd love to do it maybe more around Building Blocks for Kids, which is the nonprofit Lego ministry my son started. And I said, hey, Lance, what if we did the story around that? Would you be okay with that? And I said, what if we did something totally different, and I was on the cover with the big Lego character, on that. And Lance was gracious enough to say yes. He's like, you can do that.
And hey, you're up for Best Cover Award now, so you knew, right?
Who would have thought? I didn't know that would be a thing. So there it is, right there. Yeah. And so Lance was gracious and was like, yeah, it's whatever you want to do. And my whole goal was to just hopefully drive some attention to Building Blocks for Kids, and give a quick backstory on that. And then Rachell, thanks to you now introducing me to your mom and dad. We're working on that project in Uganda. Amazing. Yeah, which was kind of the goal. I thought, if we can get that out there more, it helps us to make more connections and meet people and see how we can maybe make a bigger impact, that way.
Yeah.
And
mission and vision statements, you'll have to share what your son's mission and vision statement was. And I think that lines into saying the yes or the no with the introduction I have to make for you.
Absolutely. Well, the mission statement for Building Blocks for Kids is, when we call it BB4K for short. So if you hear me say that, that's what it is. But I'd say BB4K is dedicated to sharing the fun of building blocks by providing free Lego sets and Lego workshops to kids, while sharing God's love and the hope that comes through Jesus Christ. And the vision statement, I actually called, whenever we were getting the nonprofit, we'd been doing Building Blocks for Kids, and I'll give the history on that in just a second. But I called my son who started it, and I said, hey, how many kids do you want to bless in your lifetime through Building Blocks for Kids? In my head, I was thinking like 1 million, but I thought I'm going to call my wife and get my son on the phone, because I'm probably not thinking big enough, although I thought that was a pretty big number. And my son goes, I think he was 8 years old at the time. And he said, Dad, he said, how about an infinity? And I was like, well, we need it to be like a number. And he goes, okay, how about a gazillion? And I'm like, that works. I'm like, I don't know how many zeros that is, but that's a lot. So the vision statement became to bless a gazillion infinity amount of children around the world with Lego sets and the love of Jesus. And what was cool about that, after we did all that and we thought about it, I was like, if we could bless every kid on the planet today with a free Lego set and minister to them, 5-6 years from now, there's going to be a whole new set of kids that exist that don't exist today, that are born, and we couldn't put a number on that. Like, we don't know how many kids are going to be born, over the next 5 years. And I said, so the number is actually really appropriate. And we have that, we write that out here, it's in our, on the back of some of our cards here, the mission, the vision. So my son, I'll give this real quick and then I'll talk Uganda. So go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say, talking about patterns of success, can you hear me there?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay, awesome. Didn't know if the internet disconnected for a moment. But talking about patterns of success, that you were earlier, I think it's absolutely incredible how you've weaved that into this ministry, that your son and you started teaching children patterns of success from a young age, which I'm sure you're going to share in a moment.
Well, thank you. And it was cool to take, running a ministry. My pastor always says, running a ministry, he says it's not a business, but all the rules apply. And so you got to have a vision. You got to have a mission. You got to have more money coming in than you have going out. I mean, all the rules of that apply. So having some business knowledge to be able to help him with that was a big deal. To be able to give that to him. Yeah. So my son came up with the message, and for those who don't know anything about building blocks for kids, my son's wanted to be a missionary since he was 5. He had the idea to be a Lego missionary when he was 7, because he just constantly, that's all he would talk about was being a missionary. And he's like, I could teach kids how to do Legos, and we were thinking, well, we could do that now. Just totally threw that out there, blurted it out of our mouths, my wife and I. And so we bought some Lego sets. We called Mission Arlington, we do about 80% of our events in the apartments the apartment communities that they serve. And we're like, let's go do a free Lego workshop, and we'll feed kids and do all that. And so that's what we do. And so it was his vision, his idea. And so we started doing that. We did the first one, and it was like, wow, that was cool. Let's do that again. And we had no intention. We weren't sitting around thinking like, what's a nonprofit ministry we could start. It was just a conversation around him wanting to be a missionary. In fact, the conversation of Legos started because he was asking his mom, my wife, he was like, Mom, how are you going to come visit me when you're older if you don't know where I live? Because in his head, he was a nomad missionary, just beating the streets somewhere, in the world. And she was like, I'll find you, don't worry. And so that's where the idea of that came from. And since then, we've done about a little over 70 events in 4 countries. We've ministered to probably about 3,000 something kids since we started. And it's been just an incredible journey so far. And so the Uganda thing came up because Rachell, you introduced me to your mom and your dad, who are missionaries in Uganda, and they're building a community park called Gulu Community Park. And you can go to their website, which I believe is worldembrace.org, and there's a whole page on what they're doing there. And so the opportunity came for us to then build a building there in the community park as part of Kid City, as they call it. And they already had, what was so cool was before that magazine, the Real Producers magazine, was even printed and out, Rachell had already connected me with them, and we had a Zoom call with little Dennis and my wife and Reynold and Kathy there in Uganda. And they had already had the design to do a Lego building in the community park. And so we through prayer and really thinking about it and seeing how, hey, this lines up perfectly with our vision and our mission, we committed to sponsoring and raising the money to build a Building Blocks for Kids building, where they're going to do Building Blocks for Kids now 7 days a week in Uganda, and minister to kids. While we're sleeping, they're going to be doing that. And so we're really excited about that project. And it's already started too, which is really, really, really exciting. So we had, we're really pumped about it. Thank you for giving us the opportunity to do that, by the way.
Yeah, of course. Well, when I heard you sharing about what you guys are doing, and I also love the message, that your son came up with the Legos, which I think, again, patterns of success. You're teaching, how are you going to, I forget the wording, but be successful in life and live life as intended. As with the Lego set, you need to follow the instructions. And similarly,
and that's the analogy.
Yeah, that God has laid out for us in the Bible, instructions of how to live your best life. And I just thought it was absolutely incredible what you guys done. And, knowing the need in Uganda too, and some people might not be aware, but in Uganda, it's the second, and I'm reading it here, otherwise I'm going to probably botch it, but it's the second youngest population in the world. The average age is 15. Gulu is in the north in Uganda, where the park is, and it's the second largest city there that was just ravished by the LRA. Many people are familiar with Invisible Children. The LRA was the Lord's Resistance Army led by Joseph Kony, and there was 22 years of rebel war, which is why it is the second youngest population, because unfortunately so many of the parents, the older generation, were slaughtered. Kids were abducted. They, killed. 100,000 people
and put into war.
Exactly. And many of the population, 90% of the population in the north had to leave their villages and leave in camps. So it's been a devastated just place of the world. And in Gulu, there are 300,000 people. Now get this, there are 150,000 of them are children. There are no free public playgrounds. There's no organized citywide activities for children. There's absolutely nothing. Oh, I get emotional talking about it.
It's crazy.
And there's 100,000.
Well, and that's where Joseph Kony was stationed.
Yeah. And so 85% of the population, again, are age 35 and younger. And there's nothing for the kids to dream, to learn, to be a child, to play. There's such incredible opportunity for those of us with the means, who've been blessed to live in North America, to do something completely unique and unheard of there. And that's exactly what Dennis was sharing with Gulu Community Park. And, my parents are developing 15 acres of activities, experience, fun, learning. And one of those places, as Dennis mentioned, was, the mini Gulu or Kid City. So just wanted to follow the notes.
Kid City.
Kid City, where we want to have that building, as Dennis explained, with the Lego set for kids to just dream, explore, and also hear, about this incredible relationship that they can have with God. And so just hearing Dennis share at that magazine celebration party that we had, and I'm finding out about this cover that I see with this Lego character on it. I just thought, I wonder if there's, supposed to be a connect here. So
real quick, if I can interject, and this one thing that I just think is so powerful about this real producer community is a lot of the conversations that we're a part of are elevated. We talk real estate, but we often are talking about the good with what we can do with what we have. There's just, and when you get around like-minded people, and Dennis, you can attest to this, your peers and the conversations you've had at our events, and then with the businesses that they work with as well. It's less about the dollar. It's more about the good that the dollar can do, at that point. And I love that you guys right now are just a total demonstration of the type of connections that we often see in this community. It's exciting. It's very exciting. And real quick, because we got a short amount of time, we only have 7 minutes. I'd like to bring Lyndon. I know Lyndon is back there chomping at the bit. He's for those of you who don't know, Lyndon Wilson with The Difference. He's back there in the booth. I know you have several quick questions before we wrap up.
A couple, as always. But first of all, Dennis, man, how impressive is that? Really appreciate you being on the show today and sharing all that, sharing your wisdom, and then all the things that are going on outside of our bubble that we don't sometimes take the time to look outside of. And it's really good to hear those stories from other people so that we can understand, because sometimes we minimize what's going on. I know we've had a couple of shows on human trafficking, and we tend to think that human trafficking always happens in a third world country, and it's happening right in our neighborhoods. And when you listen to these people,
right here.
Absolutely, it does. It does. So thank you so much for what you're doing, what your son's doing. That's amazing. The question one, also got to say thank you for the clarity on mission versus vision. I'm going to rewrite mine today. because I think that we all put something down, but I don't think that we understand how it needs to be relayed. And you did it in such a articulate way that I like, okay, well, it's time to redo mine. So thank you for that.
That's
so
awesome. I'm
Pantego,
glad to hear that.
Pantego High School, huh? What year did you graduate?
Yes. 03.
03. Okay. So then you were there. I coached at Dallas Christian High School for 14 years, and we played Pantego a few times. Who was the big quarterback that y'all had over there that I think went to UT or somewhere? Do you remember?
The Van Cleve family was.
Yes, that was him.
Yeah,
Van Cleve.
Yeah. Yeah, so, it was Van Cleve. There was two brothers, one in my class, and then the older one. Yeah. I think his name was John, if I remember correctly.
I think you're right. I'm getting
old.
My memory's not good. Yeah, they were really, really good. But we played y'all a few years, and that was fun. But thank you for being on the show, Lance, Rachell, thank you, and real producers.
Small world.
Yeah, Rachell, I know we got some stuff coming up. Yeah, if you want to close this out.
Yeah.
Here,
well, I was going to say, as people are hearing what Dennis is doing, both in real estate and also with BB4K, there might be some people saying, hey, I want to talk to Dennis regarding real estate, or hey, I want to get involved with BB4K. I want to hear more about this project, which I know you are also getting funding right now for that building, raising support. So how do people get in touch with you, Dennis, real estate wise, but also BB4K, and how can they donate to the cause?
Awesome. So a couple ways. My email is dennis@dennistuttleteam.com. And then Building Blocks for Kids, the website's Building Blocks, then the number 4 kids.org. That's also our Facebook page. So it's just facebook.com/buildingblocksforkids.org. We'll take you to the Facebook. And that's probably where the most updates are going to be, even more than our website will be on the Facebook page on there. And my phone number is 817-821-8888, which is also on the Facebook page and on our website as well. So for my team. So that'd probably be the best way. We've raised $5,000 out of the $30,000 that we're working towards, and our goals have that knocked out by the end of next month, by the end of November. And so that's the best way to get in touch with us. So.
And people watching, you have to go on their Facebook page and find the video of little Dennis and your other son sharing about the project. I absolutely love that.
Yes.
Had to give it a couple of watches there. It was so cute, and also incredibly done. The video there, but yeah. And also I just want to mention too that we are actually in talks of taking a trip to Africa with some of the best in real estate, both agents and businesses, taking a trip there. And let me tell you,
that would be awesome.
Dennis and I have talked about it. I've talked about it with a few others in the community. A lot of excitement there. If you have never been on a trip to a third world country where you've literally been in the dirt with the people, helping them and loving on these people who literally have nothing and can do nothing for you, but you just have this incredible opportunity to do that. Please reach out. And we can definitely keep you posted on the developments there. I tell you, a trip like that, it changes your life. And it's absolutely incredible. And if you want more information also on World Embrace that we were talking about earlier, Gulu Community Park, just go to worldembrace.org. As Dennis mentioned, there's lots of different projects like soccer, volleyball, children's movie theater, and other projects that are just ready for people to get involved. But we have the ESPYs next month, Lance. We were talking about earlier. Wow. Dennis is going to be there. Lendon, are you going to be there?
I will.
Awesome.
I will see you there.
November 17th. And the voting on the finalists for all of the awards ends November 1st. So you're going to want to get on Jordan Espeseth's Facebook or one of ours, find that link, vote away, and we certainly hope to see you November 17th. Don't forget to RSVP if you are a top agent or an RP vetted business. But awesome being on the show with you all. Thank you, Lendon. We love the difference in what you are doing for businesses all around, just helping them with their digital branding getting their message out and building relationship in different spheres. So thank you, Lendon. And I think we are good to close the show here.
Thanks so much, Dennis, Rachell, and Lyndon. And remember, I've got to write her down here. I love this one today. All the peace. That's beautiful, Dennis. Thanks for that nugget and everything else. Be sure to replay. There's some nuggets in there. Replay, and
a lot of
we'll add some of those links when we share this on Facebook to both of those. So, guys, we'll see you next Wednesday, same bat time, same bat channel. Have a great one until then.